Deploying a wireless controller. Oh my goodness, we are in for a treat. Let's begin. I am connected to ESX using the vSphere client. I'm using an evaluation license of ESX, and for this demonstration, I'll also be using an eval license of the virtual wireless controller from Cisco. So on ESX, we're going to go and take a look at the configuration. I just want to verify that I have port groups that support no tagging, which this virtual machine port group right here has no tagging whatsoever, so that'll be perfect for the service port. And I've also got, if I scroll down just a little bit, I've also got a port group called trunk. And effectively, a trunk port group simply says, you know what, instead of tagging a specific VLAN identifier, it simply allows all VLANs across it. And this is the port group that I'm going to plug in the logical data interface on the controller. And this will allow the controller to do the 802.1q tagging, which are going to end up at the other end of the cable, which goes into my 3560 switch, which is also configured as a trunk. One additional thing that I found very helpful in making this work correctly is for the virtual switch, we click on that and click on Edit under Security. Make sure that all of these are saying Accept. If you are in a production environment, you'd want to make sure you're following whatever security policies that you currently have in place. I'm going to leave all three of those as Accept, click OK, and close that window. Our next step would be to download the virtual wireless controller evaluation software from Cisco. If you need any assistance with that, you can contact your sales rep from Cisco, and they should be able to assist you in getting that. Once you have that software locally on your computer, to implement that as a virtual machine, we simply go to File, and we're going to select Deploy OVF Template. Once we do that, we have the opportunity then to browse to that location. I have it on an E drive in a folder called Virtual WCS, and then simply click on Next. And you can just accept all of these defaults here on this first page. Click on Next. You can name it whatever you'd like. Let's go ahead and call ours Virtual WLC, and we'll call it 1. Click on Next. Next, it's asking, where would you like to store this? I've got two destination storage locations. One's 232 gigs, and the other is 1.81 terabytes. Let's pick that one. So we'll select that and click on Next. It's asking, how do we want to provision the hard disk space? I'm going to go thin provision, which allows it to grow the hard drive as needed up to its limits, and we'll click on Next. Now it's asking regarding the networks I want to use. I'm going to specify VM network. It's my only choice in my implementation of ESX. We'll have an opportunity to select port groups as we edit our settings. So I'm going to click Next one more time, do a quick overview of the details, click on Finish, and that is off to the races. Okay, so the actual copying of the software over to ESX and the creation of this virtual machine is in place. However, we do need to make a couple of tweaks before we start the virtual machine. So let's grab this virtual wireless LAN controller. We're going to go to edit the settings of this virtual machine. And I want to say that network adapter 1, I want to go ahead and associate that with my VM network, which is perfect. That spills out into VLAN 1 in my topology. So this is the service port, which is meant for out-of-band management of this device. And for network adapter 2, which is the data port, which we're trunking to, I'm going to go ahead and associate that one with the trunk so that when the controller adds those 802.1q tags, those will be forwarded over this virtual interface and hit the switch, which is currently trunking. And the switch on the other side understands 802.1q tags. It's already set up and configured. So with that in place, we'll click on OK, and then we'll simply power on the virtual machine. Now, as this virtual machine starts up, what we definitely want to do is we want to go to the console of this virtual machine and watch it. It's going to take a couple of reboots for this install process to operate. However, if we get a prompt at this virtual machine console saying, hey, would you like to make this screen your default console screen? We definitely want to be there so we can press Enter. Now, there are some options in VMware and ESX where we can create a logical serial connection. And if you want to set that up as an option as well, you certainly can. And I am going to edit out a lot of the big blank spaces because this process does take several minutes to complete. So it's right here where we definitely want to click our mouse in this screen and press Enter. Then when you see the big Cisco logo, this guy right here, that indicates that this is your primary command line interface. Okay, so now we get to the interesting part. It says, do you want to terminate the auto install? If it's in brackets like this and you press Enter, that means you're accepting it. If it has two options in brackets, like a yes in lowercase and a no in uppercase and you press enter without typing anything in, it takes the option that's shown in uppercase. So in this case, I will go ahead and say yes. Let's go ahead and terminate the auto install. And now it's asking us for the actual name of this controller. Let's call it Virtual Wireless LAN Controller -1. And we'll press enter. What do you want the administrative user to be? We'll call them admin. And what do you want the password to be? Now, if you don't put a tough enough password, it's going to complain. So I'm going to use ABC123 and then a $sign. And it's going to ask me to confirm that. ABC123 $sign. Now, normally, I wouldn't speak those passwords. However, if I forget what that is, I know I can come back to this nugget and remember what that password is. And we'll press enter. Now it's asking us about the service address. This is the out-of-band management port that we can use to manage this device if we want to. The service port. Now I'm not going to say DHCP because I might not know exactly what that IP address is that I got. I'm going to specify it statically. So I'm going to type in static. And then with my numlock key on my keyboard, I'm going to put in 192.168.1. And I think we planned on using 185 as the last octet for that service address. Now, if you're setting this up and you don't have a whole bunch of port groups set up, you can go ahead and not even use this service interface if you're just testing and practicing. However, it is recommended that you have multiple interfaces and out-of-band management whenever possible. It's more secure, and if something else goes really, really bad on the production network, you can still potentially have access to this device through the service port and that IP address. So let's go ahead and press enter. It's asking what the net mask is, which is a 3-octet mask. Now it's asking about the management IP address. This is the management interface that we're going to use to communicate between this controller and the access points. And it's also, if we wanted to, we could use this IP address if it's routable, and it should be, to go ahead and manage this box as well by us. So we're going to put this guy in VLAN 10. And the address space there is 172.16.10. And we'll give him .5 for his last octet. And the net mask is 255.255.255.0. Now it's asking, what is the default gateway for me to use on this management interface? We're going to give it 172.16.10.1. That's the IP address of the router that is trunked in and has a logical interface in all of our VLANs. And now it's asking, okay, great. And when I communicate on this management interface, what tag do you want me to include that will be received and seen by the switch at the other end of this cable? And because we're putting him in to VLAN 10 on purpose, we're going to go ahead and specify that 10 is going to be the VLAN tag to use. If we said 0, that would indicate we're not going to add any tags. It's asking, what management interface port number do you want to use? Well, jeepers. It's a virtual wireless LAN controller. It has one service port and it has one data port. So we're going to choose from 1 to 1. Let's pick number 1. If we are on a controller, a physical controller that had, for example, 8 ports, we could then choose exactly which of those ports we want to use for the management interface. What is the DHCP server address? That is 172.16.10.1, which is also that default gateway for the subnet. And now it's asking for a virtual gateway IP address. Now this virtual gateway IP address, if we had like 4 or 5 different controllers and we want to set up roaming so the user could go between any access points and potentially between different controllers, all of those controllers in the same mobility group are going to use the same virtual gateway IP address. So it doesn't have to be reachable by the rest of the real network. So we could put virtually anything there. I'm going to put 1.1.1.1. So once we've selected whatever our virtual gateway IP address is going to be, and again, it just needs to match on each of the controllers that are in the same mobility group. And we'll take a closer look at that in another nugget. Now it's asking for that mobility RF group. We'll call it mobility group 1. And we'll press enter. And now it's asking for our first SSID. Let's call this our SSID, yours and mine. And we'll press enter. Some of the additional questions that come up, we're going to answer more in detail as we get into other nuggets. For now, I'm going to say no, I don't want to do DHCP bridging. Sure, go ahead and allow static IP addresses. Configuring a radius server is a really good idea, except I'm not going to do it now in this video. So I'm going to say no for the moment. I happen to be in the United States, so I'm going to say the country code is US. I want to enable all my radios and also auto RF. Do I want to configure an NTP server? I'm going to say yes, I do. I'm going to configure it as 172.16.10.1. That's my default gateway, who's also an NTP master. So that should work fine. And the polling interval, I'm going to say every 3,600 seconds, which is the minimum. And now it's saying, hey, if your configuration is perfect, type in yes and press enter. I will save that, I will reboot, and then we're done with our initial bootstrap of this virtual wireless controller. It says the configuration is saved, and now it's going to go ahead and reboot. Now here is where we want to definitely press enter again. So if we want to do any debugging or work at the command line, we can have it right here through our console, courtesy of ESX. So it's booting up all of its services, which is great. And now it's asking us to go ahead and log in. So who do we log in as? Well, we created a user. Only one user that we created was admin. His password was ABC123 $. We'll press enter. And we're now sitting at the console of this virtual controller. So if we wanted to verify some connectivity, we could do a ping to our default gateway of 172.16.10.1. And that is a great reminder that you should always make sure you either turn on your numlock or make sure the virtual machine numlock key is already on. So that ping won't be too successful because it says, what the heck is that kind of address? We'll type in ping and let's try 172.16.10.1. That should be our default gateway. And look at that, we're 3 for 3. That's great. I'd also like to verify that we can reach the service address. Another thing to be aware of inside of this console is that to get your mouse and control out of this console, we need to press Control-Alt on your keyboard, and that will release the cursor. So I'm going to do Control-Alt. That gives me access to my mouse again. And let me bring up a command prompt from this computer that I'm sitting at just to verify I can ping the service address as well. So from a command prompt, if I do an IP config, just to verify what my address is, this says, hey, you are at 192.168.1.47. Fantastic. So let's verify that we can ping that service address of 192.168.1.185. So it looks like that ping is working. If we wanted to verify from the controller as well its addresses, we could do a show interface, do a question mark for help, and say summary. And that will give us a quick summary of the interfaces and their IP addresses. So the management interface is that. We already verified that we can ping another device in that same subnet from there. And we also were able to ping this service address, which is in VLAN number 1. Now we're almost done. What we need to do is open up a browser so we can connect. And we can connect to either one. Let's go ahead and go to the service address. And once we connect there, we need to go ahead and activate our eval license for this product for it to work. So let's open up a browser. So this browser will work. Let's go ahead and go to HTTPS. Now there's a self-signed certificate on this controller, so my browser is not going to like it, but it's okay. HTTPS:// 192.168.1.185. So this is my browser saying, hey, you may not want to do this. I don't recognize the cert as being a valid one. I'll say I understand the risks. This is my own device. I just set it up. I'll add the exception. It says, do you want to confirm that? I'm going to say yes. And now I have the login to this wireless LAN controller. So we'll click on login. We'll log in as admin, the name we set up, and the password was ABC123 $. Click on OK or press enter. And we now are connected to this wireless LAN controller. Now, unfortunately, it's saying we have 0 access points that are currently being supported because the eval should support, I think, 200. We'd go over here to management right here. Go down to software activation. Click on licenses. Click on this license. Now to actually get the prompt for the end user license agreement, we're going to click on set priority. Click OK. And then it comes up. So we're going to say, great, I accept. And now it's saying you got to reboot one more time for the wireless LAN controller with the activated eval license to go ahead and come up. So we'll click on OK here. And to reboot this puppy, we're going to go up to Commands. On the left, we'll click on Reboot. And then we're going to simply click on the top right-hand corner of the Reboot button. Confirm it, and this guy is going bye-bye. Now, while this is going away and rebooting, what we might want to do is go back to our ESX device, go back to this console, because we absolutely want to be able to press Enter when it says, do you want this to be your primary console? And we do. So we're going to press Enter there. So it's booting up. This is where we'd click inside the screen and press Enter. Also this time, I'm going to press Escape so that we get the additional boot options so you can see what they are. So the default action is to go ahead and run the primary image. If from this menu we selected 2, we'd run the backup image. We could change the active boot image to something else, manually update the images, or clear the configuration, which is number 5. So if we simply choose item number 1, which is the default, it'll just continue with its normal boot on the primary image. Looks like we're in good shape. Now from here, we could log into the command line if we wanted to, or we could open up the browser management interface one more time. So let's go back to our browser. It's going to give us the opportunity to re-authenticate, which we will. And I'll put in our top secret password of ABC123 $, and click on OK. And this puppy is up and active. Showing right here that it supports up to 200 access points, which is fabulous. And then we have a whole bunch of other menu options and details that we can get into as we continue to build and put together this wireless local area network. I would like to show you one other detail. If we go back to this diagram, I currently have 3 access points that are sitting in VLAN 20. And what I did for DHCP, when they boot up, they get a DHCP assigned IP address. They're also given something called option number 43. What exactly is that? Is that a secret formula? Option 43? Well, option 43 includes information regarding the IP address of the management interface of the controller. So what they're going to do is when they boot up, they get their IP address, and then they phone home. They build that CAP-WAP connection between themselves and the controller because they know what the IP address is of the controller in the DHCP. So I've already set up DHCP to give them that information. So what I did a few moments ago is I bounced those ports where the APs were connected on the switches on those access ports, which should cause them to get an IP address again through DHCP, learn through option 43 what the IP address is of the controller, and renegotiate a connection, a CAP-WAP connection with that controller. So if I click on refresh right here, if we scroll down just a little bit, it looks like I've got 1 out of the 3 that's come up. And if we wait a few minutes longer, I should have 3 out of 3. In this video, we've taken a look at the implementation of a wireless controller. If we had a physical device, it'd be very similar. We'd take that wireless controller, we would trunk to the switch from a data port, and for the service interface, we could plug that into an access port in whatever VLAN we wanted to manage it. And the rest of the process regarding the setup and the connecting with the HTTPS would be very similar. I've had a great time. I appreciate you joining me. I hope this has been informative for you. And I'd like to thank you for viewing.